This conference will now be recorded.
Bobby? Sure. I'm throwing everything to you. Bob, you got something to say on that?
Plead the fifth.
I got 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting in order. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I believe we do not have any amendments to the agenda, so I just need approval. of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. New business, News and Broda Pool Abatement Public Hearing. We'll go through a little presentation first, and then we'll open it up to anybody that wants to make comments on the abatement for the public hearing. Just make sure that everybody that's here has signed up outside for we can just get all that information. So I'll let Brian start with the presentation.
All right, thank you. When I was thinking about this, I thought, well, I should start from the beginning, or at least the beginning of when we signed a contract with our pool contractor. And just kind of run through everything so everybody's got a good handle on what we have looked at, because I've seen Facebook posts and things like that questioning, why didn't they look at this? Why didn't they look at that? And we did, I promise you, over 8 years, we looked at anything and everything. So that's what I'm gonna do, just kind of go through start to finish. Starting out with the old pool, built in 1972, operated for about 52 years. And that was built entirely from fundraising. $200,000 is what my research showed, which coincidentally enough is roughly, it's more about $1.56 million in today's dollars. And that was our fundraising effort for this new pool, was about 1.6 million, 1.626 million. So yeah, we weren't far off from back in the day when the old pool was built. We ended up closing it down on April 1st of 2024 for several reasons. Water and sewer lines broken toilets, dangerous cracks in the pool. When we started that thing, every year we didn't know if it was going to run or not. Sometimes it ran right away, sometimes it didn't run right away. The last time we had it running, there was a hammer on the return or something, and we thought if this thing is going to blow up, but then it resolved itself and we were able to run it for a little while longer, but it was done. It wasn't practical to remodel it anymore, spending more money on it. And I'll get into a little bit more of that along the way here as well. So going by year here. There we go. A little slow up there. 2018, the park board and the city council began to plan for a major rehab or replacement of the pool. Now that's a little misleading. They were planning on rehab for a long time, probably before that. Kim was around that during those years before too, but they did a nice job of maintaining it to get 52 years out of it. The maintenance just finally caught up. So then they started talking about, well, I have to do a major rehab or replacement. On August 21st, 2018, the council entered into a professional services agreement with Burbach, who we're still working with, to look at costs for rehabbing the existing pool, and then looking into potential designs and costs if they were to replace the pool. They formed a pool committee. It was a large group. I should have put the names on here. But pool committee in the fall of 2018, and they were in charge of working with Burbach to look at new pool concept plans while Burbach was working on the rehab and the cost, the feasibility of doing a rehab. So kind of two things going on at once there. 2019, Park Board and City Council received the technical evaluation on the old pool, and it was a little rough. It was estimated just a hair under $2.6 million of probable cost of rehab, a comprehensive rehab to get it to where it needed to be. And that didn't include zero depth entry or splash pad amenities. That was just the rehab. So 2.6 million. Based on the large cost of rehabbing the pool, the decision was made to pursue a new pool facility. And the pool committee went to work. They were not given guidelines on what to design as far as dollars go. And they were in the $7.5 to $11 million range. And they were beautiful designs, just absolutely beautiful, and tons of work. They put in so much work into that. Then I came around in 2020 is when I was hired in July. And I said, well, we should probably look at the impact of what you're looking at here. And so we looked at various amounts, 8 million, 7 million. You can see that on there. Those were numbers from back in 2020. So it was a lot. And so we also thought, okay, well, if we're looking to spend that, let's see what an indoor pool facility would cost. We worked with Ehlers, Rebecca, and I can't remember who else at Ehlers, but at the time. Yeah, did we work with you on were you around when we did well, anyway, yep. And so they came up with the Jack's Links Aquatic Center in Minong, Wisconsin, just as a kind of place to start because they knew the numbers there. And they paired it back to a facility that would be more fitting of a community like ours. Because there was a lot of talk about, hey, why don't we have something with a roof on it, something we can run all year round? Well, it's not just a few months. Well, yeah, great idea. Let's look at that. Well, $15 million, give or take. And you can see the tax impact of that. $1,100 a year on a $300,000 house, $91.60 per month. So we thought, and those are estimated numbers, but we thought, well, maybe you should look at a little bit more reasonable pool, maybe an indoor pool. It just is not gonna fly here, especially staffing and heat and all that stuff all the time. So we asked the committee to start looking at something smaller, something more affordable for the community. Well, that request wasn't met with excitement by the pool committee that was there at the time. It meant an extended time for the new pool to come to fruition and all these wonderful ideas they came up with and tons and tons of work and hours and hours and hours. And they did a great job, and huge thank you to all of them for what they did. But they decided that they were going to step down and no longer participate in the new pool planning. The park board took it back on at that point and started looking at new plans. But there was a strong desire to keep the pool running as well, our old pool. We need to keep this pool running until we're ready to go with a new pool. So council authorized $110,000 to rehab just the things that had to be done to keep it running. And I asked for 3 or 4 years out of it from our pool contractor. We got 3 summers out of it, almost a 4th. If we had working toilets out there, we might have gotten a 4th, I don't know. But and again, the rehab was just the main things. The walls were falling down in the vessel, mechanical things, some things like the climbing wall. We made sure that could be reused, so we're not spending that money again in a new pool if we decide on doing a new pool. And then the park board continued to look at pool designs along the way as well. The park board requested from me as the administrative representative of, well, how much are we looking at? What should we look towards? And I said, I don't know. We need to do a capital planning process as a whole, as a city, to look at everything we've got, because we need to do roads, we need to do everything else as well. Pool's very important, but so are all these other things. And so we went through a capital planning process. That took most of a year. So you're going to see a gap here. Then 23, we finished the capital planning and we came up as an initial starting amount of, we could bond for $3 million. And then the park board went to work from there. Well, okay, well, what type of a pool can we do? What type of fundraising would be feasible? I think it was design number 22, wasn't it, Fred? Resulted in the pool with an estimated probable cost of $4.626 million. It checked the boxes, was a smaller footprint than the one we have now. But again, ours was full for swimming lessons and then it wanes off after that. So a smaller footprint was doable, especially when we can bring the cost down a little bit. And it had the amenities we were looking for. So a lot of discussion with Burbach, with other communities, other fundraising efforts that have been done. And the park board decided that, okay, let's go with this $4.626 million pool, go into the $1.626 million fundraising effort. And we formed another pool committee. This was a fundraising committee. And they were also involved in the details of the design as well along the way. But formed the committee to do the work of gathering dollars to provide a new pool facility for the citizens of Zumbrota and also get out the vote for the referendum. As city staff, we can't ask for money. We can't go out and solicit donations. We really can't go out and say to vote for or not for a referendum either. So we need the committee to do that. And they did a phenomenal job. Again, another committee, citizens, amazing amount of work, hours, lots and lots of hours. Geared up for the 2024 election. And we put the question out on the August 13th, 24 primary election. Now there was a lot of discussion about that primary as opposed to the November election, the general election. What it really came down to was we wanted to deliver this pool spring of 26, like this spring. That's what we had been talking to the citizens about all the way along, the pool committee all the way along. And to do that, we needed the most time possible for Burbach to do the design. So we went with the primary on August 13th. Saved a few months of time. Passed 71% voted yes. Those that came out to vote voted yes. And we initiated the plan design phase right away after that election on August 15th of 24. Burbach got going on the drawings. The fundraising committee went in earnest and started doing fundraising. Lots of events, all that stuff. In 2025, we engaged in extensive detail meetings with Burbach engineers. There's a lot of details, of course, in a pool. We're not building a pool in the backyard. We're building a public pool, and there's so many things that go into it. And again, the park board was involved with that. We had a park board representative, Troy, who was also on the pool committee. We also had a couple other pool committee members. And Public Works, Administration. We also got the pool manager involved in looking at the details, things that need to be in the pool, need to be included inside the pool house. We received 75% design drawings on April 28th, and then final drawings were not complete until September. And so that was a long haul. And a good thing we did the question on the earlier election, because otherwise, yeah, we would have never had a chance for 2026 opening. Put the advertisement out for bids on September 18th of 25. Opened the bids. That was well, I won't forget that day, Tuesday, October 21st. And the bids came in at a little over $7 million as opposed to the 4.626 estimated probable cost. 2.6 million over, which caused us to say, well, what are we going to do now? Meanwhile, Burbach, let's see, council rejected all the bids on December 4th of 2025. Burbach requested to rebid, and we said, well, we can't pay you anymore to rebid after we missed it by this much. And they said, no. Let us rebid. We're not going to charge the city anything. So they've been doing they did the rebid work, some of the redesign at no cost to the city. Things that were cited for the overage was a tight time frame. We all the way along, we said we want to deliver this pool spring of 26. and they tried hard as well. The timeframe was the biggest factor in the huge overage in the bids. And there were some over engineering things too. Burbach builds just a wonderful pool, but there were a few things that we could pare back and still be fine. The concrete slab was 8 inches thick, or no, it was 6 inches thick, and 4 inches is plenty. Some things like that. There was an aggregate specified. But anyway, we're hoping that that would bring the bids down, and they were confident that the bids would come down substantially. Second bid advertisement went out on January 26th, or January 6th of 2026. We opened those bids at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, February 17th. 5 bids this time, so a couple more. On the way it's structured is 3 contracts. The pool, mechanical, electrical stuff, and then decking and all the other things. Came in at $4,354,500, so way better than where we were before. But then you got to add back in Burbach's fees. You know, they don't do this for free. They did the bidding for free this time, but so there's fees that go in there, and then there's other incidental things that came up that we had to spend some dollars on as far as asbestos abatement to get ready for potential demo. We were really trying hard to demo before the Covered Bridge Festival this last year. Some additional soil borings that came up because the engineers were a little uncomfortable with what they saw with the limited soil borings they initially did. So anyway, long story short, $4,942,355.63 is the total that we're working with now, which is $316,000 and some change over the estimated probable cost of construction. The pool committee has raised $661,322.12. Thanks to the financial staff here and keeping such good books, we even got the 12 cents in there. That includes cash and pledges. So that leaves a funding gap of approximately $1.3 million that we got to figure out what to do with. So staff consulted with Ehlers, Keith, and Rebecca, and so what do? How do communities go about filling a gap like this when you've got a public pool or a public facility that, you know, is needed, but the fundraising hasn't gone the way we had hoped? And they said, well, you do an abatement was the first thing they had said. And there's other options, and I'll run through that. But the first thing we had talked about was doing an abatement, and I'll get into that a little bit more later, and so will Keith. But really, there's 3 options, and we wanted to present any options we could think of to the council to consider in how we wanted to move this forward or not move this forward. One of the options, no particular order, would be to go back for the voters and ask for additional dollars. With that, the 1.3 would not be enough because construction would be pushed back a year, and that carries with it inflation of about 12%. So roughly 600,000 rounding. Plus there's some fees on bonding. You have to bond for a little bit extra. And so if you went back to the voters, you'd have to ask for another $2 million is what we're estimating right now. Another option would be interfund loans. Now, this is the way we thought, and I thought, yeah, let's try and go this way though, the whole way along. But the more we got into it and the more we were talking to Public Works Director Jeff Myers and his staff, and Kim and office staff, we have a lot of water and sewer type projects coming up, or a lot of projects that are going to have water and sewer. You know, one of the bigger ones is going to be the Highway 58 reconstruction. We have to handle all the crossings there. So we're going to need a bunch of money out of those funds. So in all likelihood, if we depleted those, or wouldn't deplete it, but if we took a bunch of money, 1.3 million out of there, we're going to have to bond at that time when we do those projects to make that up. So as a staff, we're recommending not to consider that. That's just that, yeah, not a good way to go. Tax abatement. And this is what we had talked to Ehlers about. Basically, it's a way to get the pool going. So, and Keith can maybe explain this a little bit more, but when a city incurs debt or issues debt, you need an authority to do so. Our first authority was the voter approved $3.1 million. That was an authority. We can't just say, well, we're just going to do that bond for the additional dollars. We need another authority. Another authority is the abatement. It's a tool that councils have to incur debt, which is what we're presenting here. So it would be written as not to exceed 1.4 million because there's some unknowns on some fees and things like that in there. And that involves, abatement involves taking a portion of city property taxes paid on a certain property. In this case, we're talking about DFA because it's a big enough property and we can abate one rather than a whole bunch of them. And basically that we just take those portion of property taxes and we pay the debt service with that. That leaves a gap in funding for everything else we have to do. So therefore we have to raise a levy. So it's just like the 3.1 million, we would have to raise the levy for this 1.3 million. Now with that, we would continue to fundraise along the way as well. And theoretically hoping to knock that down as we go. So it would start out at the 1.3 or 1.4 million. Each year, hopefully we're fundraising and knocking that down. And so we get rid of that debt quicker with the fundraising. And here we are, public hearing to raise awareness of the abatement process and gather comments from the citizens. After this meeting, council will have a week and a half or so, a week to consider. And then during the April 16th council meeting, we're going to be looking for a decision because the bids, we have to decide on the bids within 60 days, and the 60 days is April 17th. So we're cutting it really close. So there'll be a decision one way or another on April 16th. Maybe I'll give way to Keith if you want to say some things. So what we're going to get into now is the bonding impact. I broke it out by the voter approved 3.1. The next one will be the 1.3, $1.4 million, $1.4 million proposed abatement, and the last slide will be the total tax impact on various homes.
Yeah, so that was a great overview, Brian. Keith Dahl, I'm a municipal advisor at Ellers, the city's financial consultant. What's on the screen right now is the bonding impact just from the referendum portion that we were talking about, the 3.1. When you look at the upper left portion, the bond amount, it includes cost of issuance. So when we issue debt, we're going to incur, the municipal advisor has a fee, bond counsel has a fee, rating agency has a fee, and then usually you have to pay some type of fee to the county for some ancillary stuff. So all of those costs are factored in the total bond amount that you're issuing. You're essentially using bond proceeds to pay for that cost of issuance as well. We also have the term on there, which is 20 years, and the interest rate, which is the average interest rate over that term. And currently that is 4.35%. Why I specifically mention the interest rate is because this is conservative. We've put in cushion to account for any market fluctuations or volatility that we might experience before issuing debt. So we have about a 0.5% cushion in there. So the impacts that you see below is what I would like to say a worst case scenario. We fully expect that this interest rate will be lower and that the impact to the residents and the businesses will also be lower. But on the table below, we break out by tax classification with residential, commercial, and apartments, what this ultimately means for a property valued at X, a property valued at Y. And then you follow the chart over to the right and you can see what the impact would be based on the latest tax rates for the annual amount by the value of the home or the value of the commercial or industrial property. And it breaks it down to what is the monthly impact and what is the daily impact as well. Just so people can have some context about issuing $3.1 million of bonds, what is that going to mean? On the next slide, we look at that additional gap that Brian was talking about. $1.3 million, when you factor in cost of issuance, it ends up getting closer to $1.4 million, just slightly under it. But you can see the same chart with the same valuation, tax classifications, and what the tax impact would be on an annual, monthly, and daily basis. I would say with the last slide that because we have two bond issuances potentially going forward at the same time, we can essentially have some cost efficiencies and issue both of them at the same time and save on fees from bond counsel, the municipal advisor fee, and the rating agency fee. Because we effectively have two issues in one, it's being bifurcated. So we're able to save some costs. And so when you look at the fiscal impacts on this slide, that's most telling with what may happen. But again, the interest rate does have cushion to account for that market fluctuation and volatility of 0.5%. So in all likelihood, these numbers will come down. The final thing that I just want to add is that specifically on the abatement portion. So the city has identified one parcel to essentially abate its portion of property taxes. That's essentially the pledge, the specific revenue that the city would collect. Just like any other property, it's not going to impact how the property is assessed. It's not going to impact how they pay taxes. It's not directly going to increase them because they're part of the abatement. It's an accounting practice on the city side so that when the county sends the tax settlement to the city, you specifically have to divert that portion of property taxes that would have gone into the general fund into the debt service fund. So that will ultimately cover the average principal amount of the tax abatement bonds over the 20-year term. But it is essentially at the end of the day a tax levy. And so there is going to be an interest component with these bonds. And so that's where the fiscal impacts come in. That's where you would essentially have to put that levy on all properties within the community to be able to make that full debt service payment. But with property abatement, you are able to write that down annually and send that and submit that to the county so that if you do fundraise annually, you're able to use that revenue that you fundraise to write down the abatement, so there wouldn't necessarily be that impact that we're talking about to the residents on the abatement portion of the bonds. So that's what we ultimately wanted to cover specifically with these slides and address as far as how does the referendum bond and the tax abatement bond work in tandem with one another, and what potential benefit could we see from doing two bonds at once, but also continue the fundraising to hopefully reduce the debt service for the tax abatement portion of these bonds.
Yeah, thank you. So really, you know, it's the way I look at it is about $5, a little over, well, yeah, if it's a little less than that, it'd be about $5 on a $300,000 house for this portion that we're looking to do the abatement on.
Per month.
Per month, yep. You know, already approved by the voters was 3.1 million. That's about $12 a month. Now, you'll notice it was lower when you combine them, when we put it all in there because of the fees he said we saved. So really you're looking at a total of 1434, give or take, where you would have been at, you know, 1202. And again, as a citizen, this is what I'm looking at too, because I pay the taxes here too. So, so I'm like, well, what's it going to cost me here? So that's how I'm looking at it. And does council have any questions for Keith before I move past into the summary? All right, so what does all this mean? Well, it's been an 8-year journey so far. It's been longer than that. The documented since we signed the contract with Burbach, and really been rolling has been 8 years. It was talked about before that. We have already spent $328,514.81 so far in plans, fees, permitting, asbestos abatement, additional soil borings, things like that. So we're $330,000 into this pool already. So we're at the point now we're gonna have to decide, do we want, is Zumbrota gonna have a pool or not? We have the $1.3 million gap. Going back to the voters would cost another, give or take, $600,000. Not that we don't want to go back to the voters and ask them, but the delay means about $600,000. And we might not get bidders a third time. We're told that, we go back too many times, the bidders are going to start dropping off. We might get less bidders, and who knows? Using the enterprise funds, water, sewer just is not feasible with the projects we have coming up. We have to be responsible there. So that leaves the abatement. An abatement would allow the pool to proceed now. We can start at end of April here again. Once we award bids, there's dates in there for start and finish. About $5 a month on a $300,000 house is what we're looking or asking council to consider. And then again, like he said, we're going to continue to fundraise, and hopefully we can write that down every year as fundraising goes. And in talking with Troy and Brenna and the fundraising committee, we kind of think that having a project moving along will help in fundraising. There's some larger organizations that they have applied to that have said, hey, we're not going to give anything because you don't have a project yet. Well, if we have a project, we're going to go back to the bigger organization. Well, not we, the fundraising committee, because I can't. But and hopefully we'll realize some more of that fundraising that we were hoping to get, closer to that 1.626 million. That's it from me. Is that enough?
We got enough. Thank you for all that work. I know Brian and Kim and Burbach have put that together also with Ellers, so I appreciate all that information.
And Miles and Miranda
And Miles and Miranda.
and Jeff and everybody was involved.
Before I open the public comment portion, does council have anything they want to add to what they've seen or any more questions of what they've seen on this so far? Perfect. I will open the public comment portion. Individuals may address the city council about proposed abatement. Speakers must state their name and limit remarks to 2 minutes. Generally, the city council will not take official action on these items, but may refer the matter to staff for a future report or direct the matter to scheduled for future meeting agenda. Any public comments?
I do have a question. My name is Jay Miller, and I have a comment, a question on the 71% you said voted for this. 71% of what? Is that the whole population of Zumbrota?
No.
Or was it like the 1/3 that they say usually show up for precincts to vote?
Basically what all the voters that showed, let's just say there was 500 voters, 71% of those voted yes for the
Right, so it wasn't.
And I can't remember what the numbers were, obviously.
It was 385 voters. There was 5 under votes that they don't count. So 272 to 108.
So, yeah, whatever that
So
number,
it wasn't
400
like-
votes, yeah. So,
Yeah, for those who, and it was very well publicized. It was in the paper for a long time. So everybody should have known that we were running it. So that's, and again, the reason we did it on the primary was because of timing. And people who were interested came out to vote.
Right, I can understand, how that went, but it's like I said, it's not the whole town's opinion that
Right.
this is what's going on. But then we also have more taxes coming up with the waste treatment plant.
Nope, not taxes.
that's why, that'll be a water bill, sewer
That'll
bill,
be fees.
or sewer bill.
Yep, that'll be the sewer fees.
Okay.
Could be impacted by that, will be impacted by that if that goes, so.
Okay.
Yep, and hey, Todd, can you ask him to come up to the
Yeah.
table? Yep, run around with the.
Pete. Sorry, not Pete. No. Yeah,
David Grimser.
Yep.
Just a kind of an open question. If you run a golf course or a newspaper or a city or park board, you got to have some real passion. And I don't know if that's our nature to really show a lot of passion, but I know Pete was on that committee. They did a lot of traveling they came up with a plan for an indoor facility, and the city didn't want to manage and operate it, which is understandable.
You know,
But I think you really gotta, I mean, I'd be all for this thing, but you gotta have a lot of passion to make something work, because it is not easy. Running any business today is tough.
what David was mentioning, that was a previous effort. Oh, gosh, when was that? That was back in,
Early 2000s.
that was early 2000s? Oh, yeah, not 20, yeah, early 2000s. Yeah, that was another effort where they had funding for an indoor facility, and then they didn't move forward with it because of the operating costs moving forward on an indoor facility. Is that right? Yeah, that wasn't this effort.
Just gotta see some enthusiasm.
But yes, the enthusiasm, absolutely.
What will it cost to maintain this pool once, if it goes through and everything? How much is that gonna cost, or where's that money gonna come from?
We currently budget, what, 110, 120,000. We did with the old pool.
Yeah.
And we're gonna currently, because they say with the new pool is obviously gonna run more efficient, and so we can keep that budget at roughly 120,000 a year.
We don't anticipate raising that part of the levy.
Just one more thing, and I'll shut up.
No.
No, but I look at Zumbrota, and we got so many good things here. So I gotta be careful what I say here, but we don't have a pool. We send 4 grades to Mazeppa, 8 miles away, busing. And what I'm saying is, when you look at new people coming to town, young families, what do they see in Zumbrota? And that's just a general thought for young families. Do you have a swimming pool? Where are the kids going to grade school? It's all solvable. You can use buses, but maybe you want it local.
Perfect. Anybody else, if they want to make comments, please come up to the front, state your name, and where you live. Yes, sir.
So the bottom line is, us homeowners are building the pool.
The taxpayers are, I mean, it's not all homeowners, I mean, it's businesses too, so.
Taxes,
Yeah, that's with any amenity in the community.
still come back to the homeowner.
Yeah, because we don't have any other way to make money. Whereas the city, that's how governments function, and you have to decide if that's an amenity you want in your community. And David brings up a good point. You know, we often have these discussions about, well, what does the pool mean to Zumbrota? How many families will it bring in? Well, who knows how many families will bring in? But I think just critically thinking about it, there'll be some families that won't move here, for sure, if there's no pool here and there's pool next community. And equally, you know, in my mind, if I was going to go look for a new community to live in, never have lived anywhere but here, but if I was, and I had kids, I would look at the school first, right? All right, good school, yep, check. Well, what else can I do in town? Can I get a haircut, oil change, go to the drugstore? I mean, you can do everything, and so you never have to leave Zumbrota. And then for my kids, what do they have to do? Well, is there a pool? No pool. Oh, there's a pool next community, and they have good school. They have, you know, I'm going to move there instead. How many does that equate to? I don't know, but that helps the school as well. As the community by bringing family in. And right now with the apartment buildings starting up and the potential of some of the older generation who are interested in the bigger apartments moving out of their smaller, theoretically affordable, what's affordable nowadays, 300, 350. But anyway, moving out of the smaller homes, that lends itself to bringing families in, plus the development in Pine Island. That's going to be huge. You know, we have a chance, we're going to be sitting pretty good on bringing people in. And I think the pool is one of those things that families will look at, which would be, you know, the more people we bring in, the better off the local taxpayers are. You know, you're spreading things out. And again, I'm one as well. We all are. So we understand. We understand what you're saying, but you're right in that, yes, citizens are going to pay with taxes for the pool, just like roads, just like anything. This building, everything is paid for by tax dollars. You just got to decide what you want in your community.
Any more public comments?
I will jump in. I am Mike Schulte. I'm the park board president as of a couple of years ago. This has been a perpetual problem that's being progressively pushed down the road. It's nice alliteration. But there's a whole lot of data, and I work with a whole lot of great intellectual people that can think this out year after year. And their minds are just spinning. How can we do it right? How can we do it responsibly? We also manage the park. And so we have all these plans in the park that we're dedicating accounts for that have saved up CD plans and stakeholders that are just holding that money for that pool and managing it correctly. But it's in like this limbo, right? We need to use it. So the funds are being managed, but let me back up. I get a little nervous doing this stuff, so sorry. Let me stick to the facts. The pool and the park, it's an entity in Zumbrota, like we're mentioning, that the populace look forward to using. It has generational usage, from elderly using it for aerobics to middle of the road families that have kids that they need something to go to. Hot summers, they're just getting hotter. And then the babes and the kids of the community that need an escape. And they have so many options in Zumbrota that are a safe place to go. Lifeguards and entertainment, exercise, everything we need for our children. It is a very old pool. It is close to our watershed that goes into the Mississippi. I have a capital plan for the park board in process that needs connection with the city and connection with projects so that we can state to grant proposals, hey, we have this great facility. We want to keep on being a steward of this park. We want to plant plants in the park and make it enjoyable for everybody, but we need a safe structure that's not aging and decrepit and falling into the water. Beyond that, what I'm trying to say is that this plan has been thought out from years and years ago, that it has engineering, it has safety, it has the stewardship of the dollars, and it is a hard cost for this community. But if you don't take that choice to spend that money, the progression of the community is stalled, and we're stalled on this project. I don't want to get too opinionated because that's not how you present to a city council. If you could see in front of me, it's a whole lot of notes that I keep on. I've been 6 years on the park board, and I just keep on listening, keep on taking notes. And I keep on wanting to do right for the population, because I don't want to be biased, and I don't want to waste money. And I don't want to ask people for hard spend money for something they don't want. But if we all take a place in the community and we all try to like lift up the different generations of usage and then see the future of what the park could look like if it had city support and it had engineering and the cost stewardship. And I don't know, just so many thoughts on this, and I hope I'm not getting too energetic and emotional. There's a lot of thought behind this, years of waiting, and it's just a choice away to just finish the choice, build it, and kind of carry the burden for whatever cost it costs us. I think the reward of having a pool and the progression of what we have in the future and the safety and the community, community progress, is just a beautiful thing. And the Covered Bridge Park is a beautiful thing. So it could really use less of a demolition site and more of a beautiful splash pad and kids laughing and all the things. Any questions? I have a lot of data. If you guys got I got some numbers, stuff in that in my binder. So I'm sorry if I rattled.
How many kids use the pool
Consistently?
Yes.
Year to year?
day to day?
Day to day. So you're gonna start with lifeguard numbers, where they get about 100 kids to sign up for the lifeguard. It's like an early June lessons, and they go throughout the summer. And then after that, you get about, that's a hard question, isn't it? You need like a tally from lifeguards. Kim might have some background on that. Kim?
My microphone's dead.
Oh.
The pool lessons, when we were running our pool, were probably the most highly attended lessons in the area. We had kids from all different areas coming over, lots from Mazeppa, but also lots from other communities. As far as the daily attendance go, of course, that ebbs and flows on the weather. When it's hot, it's crowded. When it's cold, it's not. So if we have a cold summer, it's not as well attended, but on a hot summer, oh goodness, we sell season passes, so it's not every, or we have sold season passes. We do charge out of town residents more for their season passes. That's a little bit harder to quantify. Evenings are busy, families come home, they grab them, so I don't know if I could particularly quantify the number, but I would say on hot days, very well attended.
I can get you a hard number if I look back at Ann's notes.
Yeah, the numbers exist. We could pull
Yeah,
them.
I don't have any.
Yeah.
But I know we've always, I'll just talk to the lesson part. We have always exceeded by a great amount our lesson budget. We've always had way more than we have budgeted for. And we have also seen an increase in parents previously to the pool closing. We've seen an increase in parents having separate lessons for their children with special needs, because there are kids that cannot take a lesson in a group class. And so we have had the opportunity to offer that, because we've had instructors that are willing to do that. So that's also been a part of the process, so.
And a new facility will increase those numbers substantially as well.
Is
As-
the pool a money maker or does it cost the city?
It always, I'm gonna be honest, every pool costs the city. There is no pool in the state of Minnesota that makes money.
Yeah, like I
It's
said
always
earlier,
tax and it's an amenity. The park doesn't make money. You pay more taxes to have the park than what the park generates. It does a really good job generating money, and they do camping and the shelter generate a lot, but it still is a cost. It's unfortunately some of these things cost. Our roads don't generate money, but we pay for the roads.
That
as
would
well.
be unfair.
Well, yeah, you're probably true.
You, without roads, nobody would.
That's
pay for
true,
it.
that's true. But
that's
improve,
not
maybe
fair.
road improvement, you're true. But, there's a lot of things we do. And then again, as Brian has said, we have two options for raising revenue as a property. Minnesota has set up its tax structure such that property tax is what funds municipal governments. Our two choices are fees or taxes. So,
Yeah, that's a good point about the campground too. The campground will benefit from the pool. I think Mike alluded to that as well. The park in general will benefit from the pool, but the campground does generate dollars. Positive dollars, quite a bit actually, and more so, I believe, if we have the pool there to bring people in, which is going to benefit the things that the park board is doing, more amenities down there. It all kind of goes hand in hand.
It will always cost to run this park and the pool. It's a stewardship. But the park board has accounts that pay for all this stuff. It's not on the city in totality. We get like a tax amount every year to spend on the park. And so we just kind of divvy up what we can do each year. So we do charge a reasonable fee for what we can get for people coming into the facility, but we're not going to like ramp it up just because we need money, because we just won't have anybody buy into that. But in the future, the more we have, the more we can use.
perfect, thanks, Mike.
Sure. Thanks for taking the time to really try this stuff out, guys. Thanks for everybody's voices. It means a lot.
Any other public comments?
I'll just make it quick. Carol Schuman, a new member to the park board. I've also been on the Goodhue County Fair Board for 25 years. And probably most of you realize that a few years ago, we started planning to replace livestock barns that were, well, getting poor and needed to be replaced. And the fundraising committee had a very difficult time getting funds, getting grants, because we didn't have anything definite, and we've had to make changes. But once we got that first commitment from the Goodhue Lions, we put up that first smaller barn for the poultry barn, if you're familiar with the barns out there. Once I came up, we got the big donors to come. So, and now we aren't approaching people. People are coming to us because they see things are getting done. So I think the fundraising will really take off and help with covering these costs.
Thank you. And I mean, to piggyback a little bit, what I have heard, that there are a few a couple other people that are willing to donate. They just haven't because we don't have a product yet. Do we know the dollar amount? If it's $5 or 5,000, we don't know, but we've had a couple people say, I'm ready. We don't have nothing.
So it can change, the numbers can
100%.
change
Yep.
at any time, so.
On this abatement portion especially, because like you said, we can write that down year to year, right? Based on fundraising.
So you mean, in other words, you would take the money that the donors give and then just put it,
Basically easy.
and
Yeah.
then it would come off of, from taxing us?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
There's two ways that it could happen. The debt issuance process, once the bids are accepted, the bid is awarded, the debt issuance process will take about 45 to 60 days. So in that time frame, you can still fundraise. And when we sell the bonds on the day of the sale, we can reduce the bond size accordingly if you have more cash to bring through fundraising to the bonds. So you can use it on the front end, or you can use it once the bonds have been issued to write down those annual abatements.
Has anybody got any rich uncles that are gonna die soon or something?
We've been looking for
Bring you
them.
forward.
We've been buying lottery tickets too, haven't we, Kim?
We've been trying.
You never know.
Yeah.
Keep praying, right?
Any more public service?
I'd like to speak, Troy Ness, Zumbrota resident for 50+ years. I was basically introduced to Zumbrota about the same time the old pool was, and back to Dave's comment about being passionate about that. I grew up in the Covered Bridge Park, and I've watched it grow significantly over the years. And I want the city council to really think about, what do you think the park should look like? Because Zumbrota is a great little small farming community, but the staple of Zumbrota and the real like jewel, the crowning jewel, is the Covered Bridge, right? The whole entire park. So watching that thing grow over the last 50 years, I physically can't imagine it without a pool. It's always had a pool for my entire life, but again, I've only had that to look onto. And to some of the comments that Mike and other people have made, I mean, it's so important to the community about the time together, the swimming lessons and things like that. And many people have said, yes, you can go to a surrounding community for some of those things. But I really think that the pride in the community is the park. And I really think the crowning jewel of the park, other than the actual Covered Bridge, is the pool. I mean, that's what brings so many families out there. I just don't want to see it turn into the Covered Bridge campground. You know, I think once that pool disappears, if it ever would, the allure of the whole facility kind of diminishes. It's not that one-stop entity anymore. It doesn't have all those things. And to the fundraising questions, I was on, and Carol took my seat on the park board as after I served both terms. And I was part of the fundraising committee on the pool. The roadblocks that we met with fundraising really came into two things. First and foremost, the big, huge, rich uncles or the donors, you know, the big Shields of the Walmarts and the things like that, they require 501c3. You have to be a nonprofit. The city is a public entity. The Covered Bridge Park is not a 501c3, so we couldn't get any of the big major donors. Luckily, just this last summer, after 2 years of really no progress, I mean, I shouldn't say no progress, we've raised over $600,000, but we couldn't get one of those big home run hitters other than like the local Hanson Communications came in great. That was clutch to come in with a 6-figure donation. We need more of those. Now that we have an entity that will allow us to use their 501c3 in the Covered Bridge committee, I think we're going to get some of those big donors. So I am optimistic that those bigger donations are going to come in. And we've already gotten over the halfway mark, right? The $3.1 million in the taxes, that's already there. The $600+ in, $600,000+ we got in fundraising is already there. We're almost to the 20-yard line, if you will, for a football analogy. We're right there in the red zone. We just need that last $1.3 million. So the abatement, albeit another tax increase, I'm not a fan, right? I'm a taxpayer. I don't want to see my taxes go up anymore. But when you look at just the $600,000 increase for waiting 1 year, I've watched this thing get kicked down the road for the last decade. I was on the park board for over 6 years. I mean, I've been involved in this thing, and the costs just keep going up and up and up. Back when we finally had our reduced design version down to a $4.1 million pool, that was before the big COVID thing, and now prices are through the roof.
And if we wait any longer, I mean, it just can't happen. We can't wait. We need to strike now. So I just want to take that in consideration because I know the ultimate decision ends up in your guys' hands. I just think it's time for the pool. I really do. I think it's a great addition to the community. And back to the other amenities, the campground, the different things that are being put up and approved by the park board, which does a fantastic job. But those are tax dollars, right? And that is an opportunity that we are presented with to give an opinion at, unless we attend every park board meeting and make sure we're there when it gets voted and things like that. So I appreciate the time and the hearing to come in and talk about the pool. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Troy. Just to piggyback a little bit on Troy's comment about earlier, we had a family reunion up at the shelter. Had a family members from California come in, move to the cities, were here the first time and loved the covered bridge, have now been back in town 2 other times to shop downtown from the cities just because they love the covered bridge. So I'm on Troy's thing that it's important to keep covered bridge, and what's going to be the staple is the pool. It's going to make it look nice. We've expanded. Public Works has done a great job expanding the campground and building another bathroom. So I would say I have to agree with the work and we've already done that. We need to keep it going. Thanks, Troy. Yes, sir.
I'll keep this as short as possible. Ben Lindquist, resident of Zumbrota. The only issue I take with doing anything else is based off of people that voted to make this 71%, however you word it. It seems to me that we're changing what they voted on. If they had known that things were going to be different, they may have voted differently. And the sheer fact that it's something that was voted on, it seems to me it should go back to the voters somehow. Instead of putting it on you guys to make some sort of a decision that affects how people's money is spent, I just feel like it should go back to them somehow to offer them the opportunity to make that decision. Because then nobody in here is talked bad about at night or in the evenings, whatever, during the day when they're at work. I just, seems to me because it was an item that was voted on by the entire community, if they wanted, it should go back to them to make the decision. I will say this, I would love us to have a pool. I'm not against that in any way, shape, or form. I just struggle with the fact that, once again, it was something that was on the ballot, it was voted on, was set parameters. To change that just makes me a little nervous.
Any more public comments? Going once, public comment, going twice. Public comment portion is closed. Hey, council, I know we've been talking about this for a few years. We've looked at different, I want to thank everybody that put the time and the effort. I know council meeting on the 16th, like Brian said.
That's the big decision time.
We have to
can
make a
discuss.
decision then. I know we took all the stuff in now. Me personally, I've been asked, talked to by a couple handful of people out in public, so I kind of gotten their views. I know, so we've talked about it, so I will close the meeting unless council has any more to add. Think about it, and we will talk about it on the 16th of April. Any more discussions? Thanks for coming. Thanks for your input. Meeting adjourned.
And you know where I'm at, if you want to talk, you don't have to be anymore.
Hey, good talk.
Absolutely.
Oh, that was good.
Thank you.